welcome to a brand new episode here on Britain's Farm. So what are we doing today? Well, you can see we've got the sprayer out today, and we are now having to fertilise all of the crops that we have been sowing in their last few episodes over the spring period. Although to be fair, it is still spring because it is it's currently May on the farm, so still very much in springtime. But yeah, so we've got as I say, all of the spraying to do, so not too bad at all. So hopefully everyone's well, and hopefully everyone enjoyed yesterday's chatty video. Sorry, 1950s Farms chatties video. I don't know why I said yesterday's video. A million and one things going through my head, and none of it relevant to you. Which causes a bit of a problem, because suddenly my brain and mouth kind of go, oh, we should maybe say that, and it's like, no, that's nothing to do with anything. It's like, it's fine, you don't need to say that. But yeah, so as I say, but the 1950s Farm was a chatty video, so I hope you enjoyed that. But and funnily enough, whilst doing that video, I talked about the fact that I'd sort of taken my little boy to school. I'd then gone to the garage. My engine coolant light had come on, and it kept coming on, I should say. And when I sort of eventually remembered when the car was in the drive, I was like, oh yeah, that needs doing. Went out, bought some coolant, looked at the actual tank, and then couldn't see the sort of max min line. So I was kind of like, oh, I don't really want to put too much in there, because I'd sort of read that if I put too much in, that it would blow the cap off and potentially through the bonnet. Now I don't know whether that's true or not, or and I know nothing about sort of cars and what have you. I mean, I could just about sort of service and change the oil on a John Deere tractor, a Challenger, stuff like that. But beyond that, mechanically, I'm not that great. I can change the fuel filters actually on a John Deere as well, so I could do that. Oh yeah, we're just going to get by. We did move over a little bit. So yeah, but otherwise mechanically, nah. It's just, I like driving them. I'm not so keen on fixing them. So and plus as well, second farm that I worked on, we had our own workshop team. So literally, if you had an issue, if you're out in the field, you just gave them a ring, and they came down and they either sorted you in the field, or they would say, right, back to the yard, we need to do X, Y, and Z or whatever. Just make sure I can get around that. And yeah, that's what you would do. So I had a look at the engine, couldn't see the max min line, didn't want to, as I'd read, sort of kind of blow the cap through the bonnet. So decided, well, I better call in at the garage. So I took my little boy, as I say, to school, and he's sort of halfway between. School for him is sort of halfway between my house and the garage. So I was kind of taking him to school. I was bang in the middle of both. So I thought, well, do you know what? While I'm here, I will, I'll pop it in, and I'll let them fill it up with coolant. So I goes to the garage, and it's a Volvo approved garage, and I explained to the man what's going on, and he's going, okay, fair enough. And he says, you didn't long put some in? And I said, yeah, I know. I said, but it's coming up again. I said, and I said, I don't want to damage my engine. Oh, that's what's the matter. I hit the wrong button. There we go. Yeah, I wasn't. I was sort of driving and looking out the window, and so I live. The reason I looked out the window is I live in the middle of the country, and 3 massive police horses have just wandered by the front of the bungalow, and I'm kind of like, huh? I don't think the rights are out here. As you can see, we've not quite. I don't know whether it's the width of this sprayer that's not quite right, or whether, I don't know what it is, but they're just the tram lines in places, the sort of spray marks in places are just not meeting, and I don't know why, because, you know, although I haven't said that, I don't think I'm using GPS on this tractor, so it could be that I'm just a little bit out. To be fair, might actually be worth me one episode just trying it with GPS and seeing how much more accurate it is, but not that I'm hugely worried, especially with the sugar beet anyway, because we'll get an absolute blooming ton of it anyway, so we've got to keep it on because we've got that bit just there that we've got to get. But yeah, so I took it to the guy anyway. He had a look at it and showed me where the max min line was, showed me how I could work it out, showed me, you know, this, that and everything else, and then said to me, it doesn't need filling up. And I said, so why does the warning lights keep coming up, and a red triangle and a big flashy computer that's saying, please stop, you're damaging your engines, please find a safe place to stop, you know, pull over. And he was like, he goes, I don't know, he goes, get in the car. So I got in the car, so he put the cap back on, and he said, have you got the warning? I said yes. And he thumped the tank. He goes, have you got the warning? I said no. He said, your float's stuck. He said, it's either the float or the sensor. So I was like, oh, okay. So I said to him, I said, well, how much is that going to cost? And he said, honestly? I said, yeah. He said, I just wouldn't bother having it done. He said, to be fair, he said, you know, we could do it when we do your service. So I was like, okay, fair enough. So what happens is I basically go to them, you know, sporadically through the year as sort of lights and things pop up, and I tell them, and if it's not serious, if it's not like, you know, sort of going to damage the health of my car in any way, what they do is they write it down in my sort of on my to-do list, and then when I take my car for a service, they then look at that list and then do all the other little jobs as well. And he you know, he basically said it's not a huge issue. He said, like, I just wouldn't bother. You know, we'll do it when we do a service, and then we'll just include it in the price of your service. Then he said, because otherwise it means, you know, we've got to have the car in, you're going to have to leave it with us, and, you know, blah blah blah. He said, no, I haven't got a hire car for you, and, you know, etc etc. So I was like, okay. I said, but I'm not damaging my engine. And he said, no, not at all. No. He said, you're absolutely fine, don't worry. So yeah, anyway, did that, and as I said, on the way home, saw loads of well, I see at least 3 farms drilling, and also a couple of farms that were ploughing and stuff like that, and said that it reminded me of autumn. Anyway, at the end of the 1950s video, I said that I would then sort of kind of do some videos where I sort of go through the jobs of autumn and then sort of winter on the farm. So autumn sort of work, funnily enough, would begin in summer. So the combines obviously would go into the field, and then we, you know, if I wasn't on our veg team, I just need to see where that tram line actually is. It's there. Oh, it's not very straight. This isn't meeting up. I can tell you this much before we start. Look how wonky that is. Jeez. Was I on the beer that day? That's possibly the worst I have ever drilled a tram line. Never mind. Anyway, so yeah, if I wasn't on the veg team, I would, you know, would be on sort of onto main cultivations and stuff like that. So what would happen is they would start to get a little bit of land cleared. We had 2 Lexion. When I started, we had 2 Lexion 770s. They've now got 2 Lexion 8900s. So I'd imagine that they get the work done even more. But since I've worked there, they've taken on quite a lot more land, owned land. So they have a lot more of their own land to do, and apparently they do also now rent way more land than before as well. So as I say, 2 8900 Lexians now. But what they would do is those 2 Lexians would get about 100 acres, 150 acres, in front. So usually a day, leave them a day, and you sort of on a good harvest day, easily knock out 150 acres a day, and and then I would go in behind, and depending on what year we'd had and what sort of weather had been or whatever, if it had been a sort of very hot, dry year, subsoiling, possibly mole ploughing, but usually subsoiling, and then what we would do after that, then the ground would be left. Fingers crossed, hopefully there'd be a nice rain, sort of a couple of day, a couple of mil of rain. It would all green up. We'd spray it off, and then we would sort of get ready to drill or plough, or whatever it was that they decided that they want to do. I mean, we could Simba solo it as well. All of the challenges that we had were more than capable of pulling our Simba solo. It was, I can't remember if it was 4.5 meters or 5 meters. And yeah, that's what we would do. So that would be, and then 1st of August, potato land would also start being cleared, weather permitting. So if there was, so the land that they wanted to come winter milling wheat, that would be cleared first. And what we would do is the self-propelled would go off, and then if the bosses kind of felt that wasn't sort of being worked quick enough, or whatever, then what would happen is, blimey, is that weeds or is that shadows? That's shadows. Yeah, so if they decided, it wasn't being sort of, the potatoes weren't, clearing fast enough ahead of the cultivation team, I would then, along with Darren, we'd get on our self-propelled potato harvesters, a Grimmy GT 170 for me, and he had a Standen, yeah, we would clear the land, and then we would go in. If it was dry, we would subsoil, or Simba solo, or Discara, or what would today be the equivalent of the horse Chorano. We had one of them as well. I can't remember what that model was. It was a horse. Was it a horse tiger? I think. I can't remember. I'll have to look at some old photos and some old videos that I've got of me working the land. I'm sure it was a horse tiger or something very similar to that. But yeah, that's what we would sort of do. And we would go in, and we would clear the land and get all of the, as I say, winter milling wheat land cleared, and then again, you would wait for a rain, wait for the green, any volunteer crop. You didn't get volunteer potatoes, but in any of the crop, barley or oats or whatever, you would wait for the volunteer oats or rapeseed, or even wheat. We occasionally used to get volunteer wheat grow. It's just where you've dropped grains on the floor, and they've obviously had a good water, they've chitted, and then they've started to grow again. And so all that would be sprayed off, usually with Roundup or glyphosate. I think glyphosate was the farm's chemical of choice. It's very good, very thorough. The problem with Roundup is a lot of the crops are getting resistant to it in this country. It's a bit like antibiotics. We've continually used them over and over and over. And like our bodies with antibiotics, the crops, genetics have basically built a defence against Roundup, where Roundup now is no longer, sort of touching, a lot of the weeds and the grass weeds and stuff like that. So, glyphosate is still very good. It's still very effective. And a lot of farms do use it and they prefer it, which is, sort of fair enough. And then you would spray them off. You would then leave them usually 2 or 3 days, and then again myself or blooming pedal. I've just killed this crop because I've literally just stood still with the sprayer on, so I've now scorched this crop to death. But anyway, we'll all look past that just for now. But yeah, so as I say, and then we'd leave it a couple of days, and then the bosses would then say to me, right, I want to go into the field, I want X, Y, and Z doing, usually, again, if it was a dry year, you'd Simba Solo it again, or you'd Horsch Tiger it. If you'd Simba Solo, so whatever you'd done the first time, you would use the other machine. The Solo and the Horsch, I'm sure it was a Tiger, because I'm pretty certain there was one in FS19, like from the base game. I'm fairly, or in the Horsch pack or whatever, or whether it was this, but I'm fairly certain that there was one in FS19 or even 17 perhaps. And yeah, so we would then go in, we would do that. That would then create our final seedbed, and then we would go in with the drill obviously, and then plant the wheat. So milling wheat was the farm's main earner, really, because of the premiums on it. If you can get it to meet exact requirements, there was a high premium to it. So that was, that was where the farm earned all its money. Now the farm took on a high risk strategy, in that all of the farm was milling wheat, and that's very high risk, because if the milling wheat fails, if the milling wheat doesn't meet requirements, if the milling wheat doesn't meet the specifications that the factories and the mills want, then it becomes feed wheat, and it's cost you a lot of money to look after that crop and to get it to grow and to try and get it to standard, for it then to be sold for milling wheat, which could be anywhere from 60 to 80 pound a tonne less. So when the farm sort of used to explain to us, the whole farm is budgeted on us hitting milling wheat targets, it was a risk, it was a high risk strategy. It's been working for many years, and as of yet, and even this year, even with the difficult weather that we've had this year and the difficult growing seasons that we've had, through exceptional rain, very little sun, etc. The vast majority of their wheat has met requirements and been sold as milling wheat, which I think is brilliant, because like I say, it's been a really tough year. So the fact that they've still managed to hit the targets is sort of massive credit to everyone involved and everyone that has obviously put in the effort. But so first lot of milling wheat would go in, but before that you would have had we would have, obviously, I've said before, all of our rape was planted by August the 5th. That was the cut-off date. If it wasn't in before that date or on that date, then the farm wasn't growing rapeseed that year, or it was growing the amount that was already set. Even if that wasn't the full allocation, that was the cut-off point. That was when they believed that you would start to lose yield. And with the rapeseed, we would have usually chicken muck spread on, and that was to try and combat flea beetle and one or two other things which I can't now remember, but it also helped with some other things with the rape as well, but I know the main reason was for the flea beetle. And then you would get that on, and the plan would be to try and get that up and away from the ground by sort of mid-September. So you would go in, you would fertilise, and you would boost it and try and get it to get up and get away from the ground. Once you got it away from the ground, so it wasn't sitting on the ground and the leaves weren't on the ground, because obviously while the leaves are on the ground, they're susceptible to caterpillar, they're susceptible to flea beetle and any other insects that want a good old nibble on your leaves. So if you could get that sort of done and up and away by mid-September, you pretty much you'd saved your crop. And also as well, pigeons absolutely desiccate rape or canola in this country. A massive problem. I mean, one of the ways we tried to combat it was that we would drill no rape around any trees, so all of our rape fields would usually be right out in the open, because pigeons are quite lazy, and if there's rape nearer to the trees than there is in the open, then they'll go for the ones that are nearest to them. So if we another trick, kind of watch what your neighbours are doing, watch what they're planting, where they're planting it. Okay, they're planting it near trees, right, we plant ours, and they'll leave ours alone, and they'll just go for the ones that's nearest to them. And oh, hang on, wrong one. I've been down there, I want the next one. So as I say, that would be another sort of trick. And as I say, and then you would just sort of get in once the rape was done. By then you'd have started the potato harvest. But then you would have started, that sort of thing, beginning of August. So you was probably into winter barley, obviously your rape seeds, or canola. I've got to stop saying that word, canola. I mean, technically I'm not saying anything wrong, because that's how we know it in this country, but even so, I don't want to be pulled up on using the word. But you, as I say, we would be well into that, and then it would be straight on to the winter wheats. And then incidentally, in the last video as well, I talked about the peas. And how they went within sort of 24 hours. They were within 24 hours of coming off the field, they were all ready for sale in the supermarkets. So alternatively, if we got to a field that had gone past when the date for pea vining had been set, and if you had gone past that date, they would no longer accept those peas, or sometimes the farm themselves would reject them. What they would do is you would let them carry on. So you would leave them be, and they would carry on growing for a little bit longer, and then usually about early to mid-August you would spray them off and then harvest them as dry peas. And the dry peas are what go for your mushy peas. So your I can't think what they're called now, but where they're in the box and you get the tablet, they would go for that. That's how you would make mushy peas, and that's the vining peas would, as I say, be allowed to dry out, keep growing, dry out, spray them off, just to make sure they were, properly dead, and then we would harvest them with the combine, and then they would go to your soaking mushy peas. That's what they call them, don't they? Your soakers, with the tablet that you get in the box. I've done it again. The thing was, I didn't think we was actually spraying, but I can now. I can just about see it. So as I say, that would be what you would do. And as I say, once all that was done, then you would then be into your drilling. So a week or so before drilling. So what they tried to do was because obviously you had different with the arable teams. We had combine drivers on that team. You had tractors and trailer drivers. And they wouldn't necessarily be on the arable team. They would be on sort of what they call the general farm team. So they would go anywhere and everywhere that they were needed. And then you would have also on the arable team, you'd have all the cultivation team, and I was part of the cultivation team. So my main job was ploughing, but then I would also do subsoiling, Simba Solo, cultivating, just any cultivation side of it. And then from there, what you would do is you would try and get it all done, and there would be a date that they would want it done by, and then you would hopefully then get a day or two off. So the date they'd want it done by would always be a Friday, and then you would have the weekend off, and then on the Monday you would start the drilling regime. And what you would then do is on the Monday you would then have a day of maintenance. So you would get your tractor, make sure that everything is working absolute on the tractor, and you would then get the drills all sort of calibrated, get them cleaned down if that was what was needed, get them calibrated, get them serviced, so that obviously they were ready to go, and that they were ready to go for the whole of the drilling sort of season, if you like. And yeah, that would be sort of pretty much your autumn regimes, greasing and sort of all of that sort of stuff. And the thing with the Verdistat seed drills, which is the one that I used, so I used the Verdistat. We had an 8-meter one and a 9-meter one, and it would just depend on kind of which one was available. So myself and Matt, who was the other main full-time drillman on the farm, we would decide which drills we wanted, and then we would put them on and make sure they all work, and we grease them up. And Verdistat seed drills, for anyone that's ever used a Verdistat seed drill, knows that the maintenance and the greasing of those drills are an absolute pain in the backside. What could be a morning's job is a whole day's job. We also had a Simba drill. That was also a 9-meter drill. That was our third drill. That was our sort of backup drill if the two Verdistats went wrong. I've since been told that they've still got the two Verdistats. They no longer have the Simba drill. They have a Horsch drill, which is 12-meter, and that is now their main drilling machine. And then the two Verdistats work in conjunction with that as well. But the main drill now is the Horsch drill. And as I say, that Horsch drill is 12-meter. I've not actually seen the drill working. I didn't realise that they had it. And then we also had, and this again is when I worked there, so I don't know if this is still the case, but we had two 6-meter mounted Amazon seed drills with obviously the front hoppers for the seed. And we I won't say we never applied. I never applied fertiliser. The front tank was always for seed, and that was all I ever ran through any of the seed drills. I never put fertiliser on while I was drilling. Whether the farm did or didn't, I can't really remember, to be fair. But yeah, so that would be that, and that as I say would be up to drilling. And then obviously you've got your rolling, and then autumn fertilising program would start. Obviously you would then be sort of getting ready to start applying either pre-emergent or post-emergent sprays. As I say, the rapes would be fertilised. Just trying to think. I can't remember whether we ferted the winter barley just to push it on. The wheat we never used to. The wheat was always fertilised through the sort of spring, and that was a mixture of solid and liquid fertiliser that we used to put on that. Not at the same time, obviously, but yeah, that was that. Yeah, as I say, that was that was kind of autumn on the farm, if you like, and the same as summer, and the same as spring. Really, it was sort of long days, long nights. The farm was a lot to do. We also did contracting. It wasn't something that we did a great deal of, but there were farms that we did go and help out, you know, that we would go and give a hand to, and whether that be ploughing. I mean, there's a big vegetable growing farm not far from where I live, and is obviously, you know, not far from where I worked as well. And you know, they had, you know, many thousands of acres of vegetables, you know, from collies to cabbages to Brussels to leeks to you know, peas, beans, carrots, onions, broccoli, asparagus. Name a vegetable and they probably grow it. And a lot of it's done out here in Lincolnshire, and then a lot of the other sort of more specialist vegetables, the broccolis and stuff like that, and Brussels sprouts was another one. But a lot of the specialist vegetables would be grown, so sort of in the March type area. There's a place in Cambridgeshire not far from here, March, Chatteris, places like that, and that's all black land, that's all peatland, and the specialist veg would be grown on that land. And I'm sort of kind of thinking asparaguses, I'm thinking leeks, your broccolis, your kales and stuff like that, that would all be grown up there. Carrots, a lot of the carrots were grown on there. The farm that I worked on, we grew our carrots in just sort of our normal fields. They were just in normal fields. You know, we didn't have access to, you know, sort of black peaty land, so it was just normal land for us. And you would obviously pick and choose your best sort of fields for your veg, because, you know, they were a little bit more picky over the grains than, you know, on sort of soil types and stuff. But yeah, otherwise that would be that, and that's kind of what, as I say, what, you know, we would do, you know, and that was our sort of autumn regimes. And as I say, for the, you know, the other sort of jobs that I may well got asked to do would be to go off, you know, to that veg firm and, you know, plough, cultivate, sometimes power harrow in front of the veg planters. You know, so you know, it'd be anything like that that needed doing, as I say, and that was sort of how it was. Yeah, as I say, obviously, you know, you all know, I absolutely loved my job. I loved it. We were busy, you know, pretty much 12 months of the year, and once all that was done, it was time for winter. But as I say, we'll leave that for another chatty video, which I don't know when that will be, but I'm going to leave this video for here now. We've done, you know, sort of about 33-4 minutes, something like that, of me waffling on. So I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have done, and you have liked what you've just heard and find it interesting and, you know, everything, don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. It's totally free to subscribe. You know, so, you know, there's no sort of hidden nasties with hitting that subscribe button. It's totally free to do. I'm sure most of you know that, but you know, I have been asked before by someone who said, you know, if I subscribe, how much is it going to cost me? And, you know, the answer to that is zero. It's not going to cost you anything to subscribe. So you know, as I say, hit that button. But thanks ever so much for listening, and thanks ever so much for watching. I've really enjoyed chatting to you on this video, and I really look forward to you joining me in the next one. Bye for now.